Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be another Masters level cast with your favourite commentator, Hairy Muppet. Down the bottom right side, we do have our red Zerg player, Rekatan. And on the bottom left side, we do have our blue Terran player, HTOMario. Now, we do have this replay plaque from HTOMario. He is a very, very good player, and I believe he's in Grandmasters League at the moment. So there we go. We cast a game of his already. He did very well in that. So we're going to see how well he does in this game as well. And we're going to get the production tab up first. And then we are going to get stuck into this match. Got a nice scouting SCV coming up. He's not actually scouting, he's just building a supply depot. Used to be, when you're up against Zerg, you had to do a very early scout just to make sure whether they're doing spawning pool stuff or not, but it's extremely rare, especially in Masters Leagues, to see 6 pools or any of that sort of crazy stuff going on. Almost nobody does it anymore. It's just so much better to go for a nice eco at the start of the game, and of course for a Terran player it's so easy to block that off. You get a barracks, and while you're building the barracks, you build a supply depot over here, but you don't completely build it, you just build like 2 seconds of it, and then you go back to the barracks. So this is half built, but it's enough to keep a 6 pool out, and all you have to do is get an SCV up and just continue repairing it, and you're all fine. But we do have an early expansion here from the Zerg, around the 14 worker mark, so that's fairly standard, and we can expect to see a bunch of, well, not a bunch of, just a single spawning pool coming down soon. I actually have seen in the previous few games from the Zerg play a lot of people going spawning pool before hatchery. Basically, I believe it's to get the queens out a bit faster, get the spawn larva going out a bit faster, and just get the workers out a bit faster. Because if this hatchery over here, it really has no use unless you're actually maxing out on this one and you need more space to actually work. So at this stage, I mean, he could have the hatchery finished, but the only advantage that an early hatchery gives you is that you can get a second queen out a lot faster. But yeah, so it's a bit of advantage either way. But I suppose getting 2 queens out at the same time, as opposed to one fairly early queen and having to wait a little bit longer to get the second one. You can see, look at his mineral count there. He's definitely going for those queens. 2 queens coming out straight away. Spawn larva, just so essential early game, just to get those extra workers out. And of course extra lings out when you need their defense. And this SCV is going to get scared away any second when that queen comes out, even before that when the lings come out, because the SCV just does not have a chance. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. Maybe he's waiting to see some tech go down, maybe a baneling nest or some sort of that, but he is, I don't know if he saw those lings come out or he just had the scouting time out just perfectly, but oh, he didn't get this timing right. That queen got her timing right, coming out at exactly the right moment. Here we go though. It's a very pretty fast command center there. He has already got a barracks though. I was worried this was a command center before barracks, but his barracks is up. He's going for a reactor, and this is a factory, so we can expect to see either some fast Hellions off a reactor with a factory, or maybe some fast Widow Mines. If we have a look at his gas, he's going double gas, so yes, we could definitely expect to see some fast Widow Mines, building 2 at a time off this factory. Factory, of course, doesn't need a tech lab to build Widow Mines, but I believe the Widow Mines do take gas. If we have a look there, it's 50 used for the reactor. No, he's building Hellions actually. Okay, well I'm guessing he's going to save up to Widow Mines after this, because yeah, you do not get 2 gas just for fast Hellions. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to do that. But oh god, I'm yawning again. I've had a few people complain they're watching my videos and I'm yawning, and they're like, oh, you're making us fall asleep. So that's not good. There we go, building the Widow Mines. I missed the gas usage. We are going to see it next time. I want to see if it's 50 gas or 100 gas that these guys actually use up when they're built. So we are going to keep an eye on that. Looks like the Zerg is just going for ling speed at the moment. A couple of spore crawlers as well, because why not? and there's no harm in getting some spore crawlers out. They always help, especially for medevac drops. Here we go, let's have a look at the gas. Build a couple more widow mines, please. Please. I so badly want to know how much. He's building Hellions again, that bastard. I assume they're like 50 or 100 gas. I'm not sure which though. Looks like he's grouping up now. Zerg player already with a ton of queens. That's 4 queens off 2 hatcheries. Bunch of lings as well. They're still waiting for speed though, and a spire. No, not a spire, a spine crawler. He does have a spire on the way though. This scan coming out. He's going to see the spine crawler. He's going to see a couple more popping up. And what the Zerg player is saying is, Hellions, you are not welcome. You are not welcome at all. Come on, where's the widow mines? Where's the widow mines? Are you going to build a couple more of them? We need to see how much gas they cost. He just started building 5 widow mines, and his gas barely went down at all. So I'm going to guess 25 at the most. Sorry, 50 at the most, maybe 25. I'm not sure, but it's no gas at all. That is an extremely low amount of gas. I thought, yeah, I got to say about 50. I mean, maybe less, maybe 25. I don't know, but 25 is not that many at all. It's just a really, really low amount of gas. It's got to be 25 because he's at a crazy number of gas at the moment. So he must have built something with 25 gas. And the only thing I can think of. Yeah, see, he's back down to, whatever, it's got to be 25. I'm looking at this and it's got to be 25. Anyway, that's it. Ling coming in now. He's going to run over here. He could have run up that ramp, actually. But, oh, alright. Do not put widow mines in the mineral line. It's bad. It's just not a good idea. Maybe he was trying to defend against mutas, which would have been fine, but I don't know. I don't know if splash damage that hits the air does a lot of damage to ground as well. I don't know if he hits ground and air at the same time. But these mutas, man, very, very scared at the moment, and they should be because of all these widow mines. If they skirt around the bottom, they might be fine, but if they get even a little bit closer, they're going to be in a lot of problems. Luckily for the Zerg player, this widow mine hit him, so he knew that widow mines are on the table. So he's not going to go in here. And look at him. He's placed them all around the missile turret. So if they go in and they try and take out this missile turret, they'll all get wiped out so fast, it's not even funny. These Hellions, pretty much useless after the spine crawlers went down, so they were in there for scouting, but they couldn't even do that right. And here we go, is another factory coming down. And what is this? Couple of armories as well. This looks like some very heavy mech play from the Terran player, and we'll see exactly how that goes. Mech is I don't think it's as reliable as Triple M, but it's definitely very powerful if used in the correct way. We've got a bunch of drones coming out, upgrades all over the place. Looks like, excuse me, it looks like he's just decided maybe Roach Hydra is a good way to go. The mutas weren't doing that well against the massive widow mines, so he may be thinking about Roach Hydra based on his upgrades. Going to see these mutas coming in. They might be able to go in here, have a crack at this command center, but there are widow mines out there waiting for a ground army to come in, so he'd have to go down the bottom side and sweep in here, but there is going to be a missile turret down there, so that is just going to be all sorts of pain. Not a huge amount of pain for the mutalisks, but considering that he's not building a huge amount of mutalisks, these are just a smaller harassing force, and a couple of widow mines. Speaking of widow mines, there he goes. He's just going to do a scout, and he's just sending in individual lings, and the widow mines knows what he's doing, so they're just going to move back a little bit, and here they go. I think they almost took out this SCV, but not quite. Mutalisk, be careful, there is still one more widow mine there, and there it goes. But the unfortunate part of a Terran mech army is that, apart from widow mines and Thors, there is really no way to actually attack the enemy air, so we're going to have to wait until he gets a fairly sizable Thor force out there, and yeah, he'll really have to rely on these widow mines and these missile turrets quite a bit, because Thors are so slow and Mutalisks are so fast that it's really hard to get those Thors around to defend the bases when the mutas are hitting all sorts of bases at once. But Widow Mines, that is exactly what they're built for, and if he gets enough of them in the right spot, then he should be fine. Mutas coming over here. I'm guessing they're going to go in from the north side, try and hit this base over there, but there are a couple of missile turrets. No Widow Mines though, but I think 2 missile turrets is probably enough to take these mutas out. What have we got over here? Bunch of roaches, so he definitely is going for Roach Hydra, it looks like. He's got his upgrades going very well. He's got his creep spread going very well. He's built up on his 3rd base because he's got a 4th base just about to come down. This missile turret is going to be very scary to these guys. They might be able to take out the refinery, and they actually, by ricochet damage, they actually do manage to take out a couple of SCVs as well. So it's a good job from them. Trying to keep this alive, but the mutas doing some very nice in and out, actually taking that out. But of course, oh, that was just horrendous. That Overseer's like, oh shit, there's Widow Mines. Run away, run away. Nah, just accept it. Accept your fate and run into them, and they all got taken out. But I think those Widow Mines were reaching the end of their usefulness anyway. With Thors coming out on the field, I'm not sure that going in there, wiping out SCV was really going to be a viable option anymore. So he switched over to his Roach Hydra army with a lot of Swarm Hosts as backup, and we have seen Swarm Hosts used quite devastatingly against a lot of different forces. Protoss seem to have a lot of troubles with them when they get to a large number. Terrans, I've always thought that Terrans with a large siege army would just be able to wipe out the Locusts fairly easily, but we'll see exactly what happens. He's not going for a large siege tech army though, he's going for a fairly large Widow Mine army, and they might be able to do this pretty much the same thing that the siege tank army was going for. But the Zerg player, he's just going to be fine-tuning his range. He wants the Locust to be able to attack this planetary fortress, while these Swarm Hosts are far away enough as possible. And with the Locust range upgrade, the one that makes them last 10 times longer, I really feel like right next to that tower, and here they'll have probably like at least 10 seconds where the Locust can attack this planetary fortress. And the Terran player, he knows about him. 4 more tanks coming out, so that is going to be his option to take out these Locusts, and we'll see exactly how this works. 7 siege tanks. I'd like to see how well they do at blowing up these Locusts. I personally think they should do a fantastic job, but he's really pushing it nice and close there. These guys, however, they are going to get flanked. The Terrans going to try and push against the Swarm Host. Not quite in time. The Swarm Host sensed that attack was coming, and they retreated back, and they are going to get out of there just in the nick of time. And that's fine. This command center is going to survive for the time being, and this Zerg army is going to run away. Now he's doing a bit of to and fro, dropping out Locusts every chance he gets. And I think the Terran player is at a bit of a defensive disadvantage at the moment. He really needs to get settled in with these extra tanks he's building. Here he goes, dropping down some Widow Mines and taking out the Locusts as they come to him. So it's a good option there. His Swarm Hosts really need to be in the ground as much as possible so that they're continually popping out the Locusts. Here we go, this is a large Widow Mine army. This is a very... Here we go, the Roaches is purposely putting them right over the Widow Mines, trying to get the Widow Mines to take themselves out. Didn't really happen though. They shot over themselves, but they really didn't do damage to themselves. I'm not sure why that is. Here we go. And Widow Mine attacks on the Hydras. Not pretty at all. The Hydra is very susceptible to Widow Mine hits. A couple of siege tanks here trying to hold off the Locusts, but I don't think there are enough siege tanks there to sort of hold off that Locust push. I would expect siege tank numbers to be somewhere about 6 or 7 before they're actually able to stop a Locust wave. Ideally you probably have 1 siege tank for every Swarm Host, because Locusts spit out 3 each, so I don't know, it seems like it should be way too much, like 10 tanks just to deal with 30 Locusts, but those Locusts, man, they're fairly beefy, 65 health, and you can upgrade their armor as well. So it's not something to really laugh at. But here we go. The Widow Mines doing a very good job here. This push is going very well, but they have run into the backlash of the Swarm host sending their locusts in. And this is going to do a lot of damage. All we're going to see is... yeah, this pretty much got wiped out. You can see there that Terran push. So you see the siege tanks very slow hitting, but I think they two-shot a locust. So that is a two-shot to kill a locust. That is, considering these little guys, there we go. 4 tanks there. And the locusts from all these guys, oh, the splash damage on the Widow Mines is just horrendous. So you can see 4 tanks there not up for the job for wiping out these locusts. When you've got this many locusts, that's a lot. They really need more tanks here. Really need more tanks to do the damage. And here we go. His tanks are just getting wiped out. He's going nuts on the tanks though. This is what I always wanted to see. This is going to be awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tanks. And here we go. This is what he needs to be doing. You see the locusts? They've just got no chance anymore. Unfortunately, this army is not going to have any chance against any unit other than locusts when they come in. But look at he's got a massive amount of swarm hosts now. What is this? 17. But I think no matter how many locusts he gets, so this is really a massive siege battle. It's just no unit chance, any other chance. Siege tanks and locusts and swarm hosts, those are the only units. But here we go. There's a drop coming down here. And meanwhile, he's pushing the tanks back. His locusts are moving in. And this is an excellent move on the part of the Zerg player. He's dropped off half of the forces there. He's going to drop a bit more off in the mineral line. Of course, he can't expect there to be any units there, but he can take out a few from the gas. Terran army moving back with this massive amount of siege tanks. They're going to siege up here, and they are going to wipe out all these forces, but the factories are going to go down, I think. He's going to lose at least one. He might lose the other 2 as well. And this is fairly devastating. The siege tank's demolishing all of these guys, but there's more forces over here down at the natural. He's gotten those SCVs out of there, I think. So that's fine. The siege tank's going to take out the rest. Meanwhile, this swarm host army is just moving in, and they desperately want to take this base out. However, they don't. They should probably have scouted this. He hasn't scouted that, so he doesn't know about that base. Siege tank's got to go down here. Got to siege up fairly quickly. This command center is in grave danger of going down. So many SCVs repairing it, but so many locusts hitting it. There it goes. It has just been wiped out. There's still a fair amount of minerals there, so I'm going to build another one. This massive amount of siege tanks. Stay siege. They're sending in more locusts. What are you doing? Siege. He's going to cancel it. And there he goes. And those locusts just got... do not unsiege while there are still locusts. He's worrying about this base, and he probably should, because I can only assume a Zerg player knows about it now. Siege, siege. He's not sieging yet. These siege tanks are not any sort of useful unless they're actually siege. But here we go. This is a good plan. I like this. He takes a few hits from the locusts. This is relatively open, but he had a chance to go for the swarm host. Unfortunately, the swarm hosts are fairly speedy as well. They got the same speed as a tank, so they're not super speedy, but for a siege unit, you know, they can move if they have to. And a siege tank's going to pull back here, and they're going to want to be defending this base, because you know that the swarm hosts are going to have to come back, have to take this out. And here we go. Broodlords and Corruptors coming out on the field. So he's been definitely pushing these guys out, and you can see that is level 3 air weapons coming out. So he's been spending all these resources on this, because of course the locusts do not cost a cent when you've got the swarm hosts out. So he's going to get siege up here. He's going to wipe out all those locusts as they come in. But of course, siege tanks, man, they are just fodder for Broodlords. Absolute fodder. He's not going for a massive amount of Vikings though. He is going for Ravens. So we can expect to see, I assume, some Raven bombs, some Seeker missiles going off on these Broodlords. And I gotta say, that's not a horrible idea, putting Raven bombs on the Broodlords, especially when they're so clumped up. I saw a couple of Raven bombs, or is he gonna Raven bomb the swarm host? Looks like he might be doing that. There he goes, going down. That wiped out a good 3 of them. A lot more of them are down to low health. Here we go, the tank army is getting wiped out slowly. These Broodlords are really doing a massive amount of damage. He needs to get a lot of Vikings very, very quickly. I don't think he has the production capability necessary for it. You can get out a couple of Thors too. Thors are very good. Once they've got the upgrade, they can switch over their weapon to do a single target attack, which is very, very good against obviously single targets. So they will be able to do a lot of damage to the Broodlords. Still going to be a bit of a pain, but the Ravens out here, unfortunately, with a combination of the Locusts and the Broodlords, it's just little things all over the place doing all sorts of damage, and the Terran player just has to fall back in the face of this. He's got to regroup, he's got to see what he can do. He really, really needs that anti-air, but he's still got the Locust to deal with, so he needs to keep his siege tank lines up, and as well just to take care of these Hydras, because the Hydras are still a factor in this battle. So here we go, a nice air force here. Going to be sending some Seeker missiles out for this Broodlords. Seeker missiles aren't the best for destroying Broodlords, but when you've got that many, there we go. So the Vikings out, but the Hydras are doing an excellent job of whittling down these Viking numbers. However, all the Broodlords have been taken out. It's just Hydras left, and the Hydras are going to get wiped out by this siege tank. So very nice job here, but meanwhile the Swarm hosts are going up. They are going to be taking out a ton of workers here. They can't exactly take out this command center, but they're going to be stopping the mining at this base, and the Terran is in a lot of trouble here. And you can see the mad tech switching that this Zerg player is doing. He's going for Ultralisk now, so he is just all over the place. Unfortunately for him, the Terran player is already partly set up for dealing with Ultras. Siege tanks, of course, a very good counter to Ultralisk. He would do a lot better if he had obviously Marauders in the front protecting his siege tank line, but siege tanks by themselves, you know, not horrible. However, I think the sheer amount of minerals that the Zerg player is getting because his bases aren't being harassed means that he can just produce so many. Oh, and we have the Torask skin. This is so awesome. This is what I've actually got for my banner, the Torasks, going in there, doing an awesome amount of just looking cool and ripping shit apart. And they are going to go in there, and they are just going to go in. They don't want to go in here though, because they want to be able to get a good surround. And these narrow sort of streets, not good for the Tarasks, because they can have like a few lines of siege tanks and Thors behind it. It's just not pretty. So he wants to be able to get the surround around this entire ball. So we're going to see exactly what he's doing. He might move in here when the Locusts move in here. So definitely, there we go. Bunch of Raven bombs coming down on the Ultras, but they are so beefy. Terran player pulling into this gap. He knows that's a good option, and the Ultras are going to pull away. They don't want to go into that gap. They're going to run up on this corner. I'm not sure what they're trying to do. Trying to get in a good position. They're moving in now. There's not much left to the Terran forces, but there's not much left to the Ultra forces either. The Thors are going to finish off most of the Ultras, but the Thors are not good in the slightest against Swarm hosts. So he's got to preserve his siege tank numbers. He's got to get out some more siege tanks. He still has not dealt with the Swarm host. And here we go. Swarm host drop on the top level of the Terran base. This is very, very awesome. You can see there's Locust just do so much damage. He's going to pull up here. He's going to try and drive the Swarm host out, but it's so hard to get past those Locusts. And here he goes. He's sending the Ravens in. The Ravens are scouting them out. Sending them auto turrets to scout the Locusts. He's going to take those guys out. But here we go. There's a counter attack down on this base. He's going to send in the Ultras and Hydras. He's got to do it soon because those tanks are going to get down very soon. So he does not have time for screwing around here. There's planetary fortresses everywhere. Here's a free orbital. He's going to take that out with this one beefy Ultralisk and a couple of Roaches. But here we go. The Thor line is coming down, and this is Thors are starting to get a little bit scary. That Overlord, not Overlord Ultralisk, he just explodes like somebody shoved some dynamite down his throat. That was just absolutely awful. Really, I don't know where these Locusts came from. Now here I thought there were Swarm hosts. This would be a good idea, putting Swarm hosts up there. But he does have more Swarm hosts up here, just a couple. Harassing, and a large amount down here. No, these are not Locusts, these are Ultralisk and Hydras. But I think the Terran has the measure of this Ultra Hydra combo at the moment. He just needs to worry about the Swarm host getting in there and making sure he shuts them down. You expect this Ultralisk, there he goes, he just completely destroyed. But there is going to be a large amount of Hydras here. Hydra's fairly good versus Thors. Thors are very good at light targets in the air, but on the ground, not so much. So he's got to work on the tanks again, because that is, excuse me, a very, very sizable force of Hydras with full upgrades. If you have a look at the upgrades, he's got 3/3 for his Hydras. He's got 2 attack for the melee, so that's for the Ultralisk and for the Lings. And he also has the Ultralisk armor there and a whole other hodgepodge of upgrades. Meanwhile, the Terran player, he's got 3/3 for his mech, obviously. He's got the awesome upgrade. This is the thing that allows the Widow Mines to burrow a bit faster. Has he got the... I'm not sure if it's actually an upgrade that you build to allow the Thors to switch their weapons. But we'll see. Maybe it comes in default. You probably should do something about these swarm hosts. I mean, they're being a bit of a pain in the ass. And they are dying, but... Oh, look at that. He's actually put 5 workers on that gas. Just because obviously they kept getting taken out. So, there he goes. He's going to move up. He's going to sort of defend this base. He's building another command center. Obviously he wants another orbital command, I can only guess. Or maybe he wants to move up there. But, of course, the creep is in the way. And there is the little Zergling down there being a little pain in the ass. And we all know a little pain in the ass. And we all hate them. But, you know, you can't really kill them like in Starcraft 2. In Starcraft 2 you can just go over there and you can kill them and it's all just sorted out. But in real life it's a little bit harder than that. So anyway, pushing on. Swarm Host pushing on over here. They've got a great range. Planetary Fortress is going to do some damage. You can see 2 hits, man. This is just not working out. Not working out at all for the Terran player. He's going to try and repair this, but once the Ultras start coming in, that was close. That was very close. The Terran army just made it in time to save that Planetary Fortress. And they're going to keep pushing in there. Here he goes. Does down the scan. He's going to try and take some of these Swarm Hosts out. You can see that is a stupidly large amount of Raven Bombs going in there. And that was awesome. The Swarm Hosts, the problem is they can jump up and just run so fast. But the Raven Bombs, just awesome, man. Really, really awesome. Have any of these guys switched over? No, they've still got the light weapon attack. So that's fine, but they're going to push around. They're going to go and take out this base, and I like that option. Now, the question is, how many Swarm Hosts does the Zerg player have? 9. So he's got 9 at the moment. And 3 of them are attacking there, so we can assume that there's 6 in a defensive position somewhere around this area, probably. There we go, there's a couple. So that hatchery goes down. He's going to take this one out as well. And then the Zerg player will start to be in a little bit of trouble, because this very, very scary Thor tank army is going to be a bit hard to deal with. With the tanks out on the field with their siege mode, they're going to do quite a lot of damage to the Hydras, but he has gotten out a few more Broodlords here. The tanks really need to switch over to their secondary weapon to start taking out those Broodlords, but right now it's not happening. I don't believe the Terran player has any Vikings on the field, so these Thors going down, the Broodlord's got just excellent range, and the Thor's just not able to take them out, not able to do the damage they needed to do. And there we go, the Broodlord's definitely wiping out those army. Those Hydras just finishing them off. These guys seem to have escaped. They didn't go in there. So they are going to come back. They are going to clear up this area. But I believe the Swarm Hosts are either already dead or they were retreating beforehand. So there we go. We've sort of reset a little bit. The Terran's still... the Terran has really, really done a good job at his bases. He's actually 2 ahead of the Zerg, even including this one. And this guy's just waiting for creep to clear. So you can see the Terran's got all the bases over here. The Zerg lost this base, and he hasn't even tried to get this base yet. So he is going to be a bit behind. If you have a look at workers, Terran's plays at 72, which is absolutely just spectacular for a Terran player. Zerg players usually a little bit ahead of the Terran players, so you'd expect him to be a little bit ahead, but he did lose a few workers before. And considering he's just lost 2 bases, he's done a pretty good job of keeping as many workers as he has alive. But the army for the Zerg player is still quite scary. He's got the Swarm Host, he's got the Hydras, he's got the Broodlords and the Corruptors. And the Terran's going to have a lot of trouble countering all these different things going on at once. He's got the siege tanks. He had him in a good position. He's going to move him forward a little bit. He's going to try, there he goes. He's going for the Swarm Host. He's going to try and siege him up. Let's expect to see No, we didn't quite see the Raven bombs going on. Here we go, those point defense drone taking out the locust projectiles. Excellent, excellent job. We haven't seen point defense drones in a while, but of course they are very good against a lot of different units. And apparently, Locust is one of the units they are very good at. And there we go. Look at all those Raven bombs go. I think they were going for the Swarm Host, but the Swarm Host just ran like there was no stopping them. And I think the Raven bombs may have taken out a whole bunch of... here we go. This has got to be the primary attack. No, still not. You're still not using the... Not the primary attack, the Punisher cannons, the single target heavy damage ones you use in single targets. He really should be using those. And I really can't understand why he isn't using those, but there he goes. He's also getting level 3 air weapons, I believe. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any air units, but maybe it affects the damage of the Raven bombs. That would be interesting to find out. I assume that it can. There we go, this Thor, tell me he's not using it. He's not using it. He's using the attack, which is really good versus mutas. He finally takes out that Broodlord, but the Zerg player doesn't actually have any more Broodlords, but you can fully expect him to be building more very soon. He's actually switched back to Roaches, which I'm not sure I agree with too much, because Roaches are not going to help him against this Siege Tank army. They're really not. Here we go, there's the push. However, there are a large amount of Siege Tanks here. These Hydras are going to be taking a crap load of damage here. They're going to survive for the most part, simply because the Siege Tanks were all attacking the Locust. You can see here, that was very scary. The Siege Tanks were about to attack that Locust, and the splash damage might have destroyed that command center. So it's very good that he got him into Siege Tank mode. Normal tank mode instead of Siege mode. So there he goes. He's building a ton more units right now. He's building... what is this name of this building? I always forget. It's a fusion core, so he's going for battle cruisers. So this will be very interesting. Hydras, of course, very good versus battle cruisers, and Corruptors very good versus battle cruisers. So I'm not sure the battle cruisers are really going to do that much. Of course, Yamato cannon is going to be a spectacular counter, absolutely spectacular counter to the Swarm Host. I don't know if they can one-shot him. They can definitely do a crap load of damage to the Swarm Host with that Yamato cannon. So we're going to see if he manages to use those guys specifically for sniping the Swarm Host, then that might be able to get him back in the game. Or, well, he is in the game, but it might be able to give him an advantage here, because he doesn't really have the advantage at the moment. So there we go. So is there still something attacking this? I'm not sure. There we go. The Zerg not really pushing on his expansions too much. He's focusing a lot on his army. He hasn't rebuilt this one. Of course, there is a Widow Mine there, so he probably tried to rebuild it at one point and it just failed. Terran's going for a very, very ballsy here. This is going to be mules all the way for this base. He's not going to risk moving any workers over there, but he should be able to mine from there using mules for a fairly long time before the Zerg player figures it out. The Zerg player isn't really watching this. He really hasn't been watching this at all. If we look at the army size, Terran player is slightly ahead. He's still going for a massive amount of mech. He's still going for a very fair amount of Ravens. He's got a large amount of Hellions there. We can only assume that... Oh, that was bad. He is going to harass these guys, and look at them. They all just burrow underground. But of course, one scan, and they are all going to be found out. Of course, they're racing away from the Locust as well. Where's the scan? Is there a scan coming down? He obviously doesn't see the silhouette, so he thinks this base has just been deserted. That he ran away all the workers. So there we go. Those Hellions just none the wiser about that massive amount of drones. And if you had done a scan there, he could have taken out maybe 10 workers easy from that base, and that would have been quite bad for the Zerg player. The Zerg player, however, he saw that hatchery, he chased it away, probably killed a few mules in the process, and here we go. Look at these guys. They know about the Widow Mine. He's got to be getting an observer. He's not an observer. He's an overseer coming in here. Will he get it in time, though? Oh, this Widow Mine. How many kills this Widow Mine has? 4. Oh, not quite. He didn't quite get there. More locusts coming in. This has basically been what I've seen from so many Zerg players. Just locusts all over the place. Siege tanks in siege mode do a massively good amount of damage to locusts, but you can't move siege tanks while they're in siege mode, so you're basically setting yourself up to be in a defensive mindset when you try to counter them. But speaking of an offensive unit, battle cruisers, man, 6 of the bastards coming out, and I would not be surprised at all to see some Yamato cannons on the swarm host, and maybe on the bloody broodlords as well, because the broodlords could definitely use a couple of Yamato cannon bursts shooting them up the arse. Assuming he has researched Yamato cannons. Let's have a look at the upgrades. I don't think he has, actually. Maybe... Ah, there he goes. He's researching them now. Oh, what's this? Is increasing the duration of all these drones that come out of the ravens. There he's going for a scan. He's going to go for some raven bombs on the swarm host. You can see a corner of them there. So here he goes. Point defense drones coming down. Here comes a massive amount of raven bombs, but the swarm hosts know the drill now. When you see them, you run. You run like there's no tomorrow. Unfortunately, they ran in the wrong direction, and they got taken out. Here come the battle cruisers now. They're just going to sit on top of this army. They're actually a bit speedier now than they were back in Heart of the Swarm, Wings of Liberty. So they're a bit less useless now, and they are going to go in there. 3 weapons, 3 armor. This Terran player has gone absolutely nuts on the upgrades, and they're going to go in there, and I think this is going to be the push that does it to the Zerg player. If that little bit of fracas over there, we managed to take out the swarm host, the Hydras right now, this Hydra Queen army, I don't think it's going to be enough to really take these guys out. I really don't think it's going to be. He's going to have a crack at it, but I just don't see it happening. Especially once these guys get into siege mode. You can see he's taking them out with the Lings. There's not much the Terran player can really do about that, but the battle cruisers, man, just so beefy. Really beefy at this point. And I'm just so happy to see a game where battle cruisers went out there and went just an absolute waste of resources. They went on top of the army, and they went in there, and just the extra damage and the extra beefiness that they provided, really well done there. And you can see a couple of units just coming up here. It's wiping out this base, so well done from the Terran player there, and well done overall for the Terran player. And I just got to try and finish this video because I can feel another yawn coming on, so just excellent job. We've seen swarm hosts again. We seem to see them a lot in Zerg games because they're so good, so hard to counter. But I think we saw some excellent choices from the Terran player on how to counter swarm hosts. First thing, siege tanks. I think we all expected siege tanks to be a great counter, but of course that's a very defensive counter. It just focuses on wiping out the locusts, which is not, you're not wiping out the root cause. And what you really need to do is get in there and take the swarm hosts out. Oh, here comes the yawn. And I think the raven bombs, large amount of raven bombs going down on the swarm hosts, really a good choice. Maybe in the future, if this becomes a bit more of a used tactic, we might see the Zerg player spreading out his swarm hosts a little bit more. That would definitely increase their survivability over a long game, but they're clumped up by default as you move them, and that really didn't work in their favour. So he just lost a massive amount of swarm hosts to those raven bombs, and I mean just the use of the point defense drone as well blocks the attacks from the locusts. Really good job here, and yeah, the Terran player just kept pushing. He did some very good job with his siege tanks and his Thors. It's just at the end of the game it was just brute force from the mech player. He didn't really fall back to using Widow Mines much in the late game. In fact, I don't think he even had any in the late game. He had one. God knows where that guy was. He's up here, he's defending this base, so that's cool. He probably wiped out half the workers in this base with splash damage, but Widow Mines get bored every now and then. They've got to let off some steam, got to let off some missiles. But yeah, he just went for the super beefy approach. And if you're going to ask what's more beefier than Thors and tanks, the answer is battle cruisers. And the fact that both of them were just fully upgraded is actually... This is weapons, He's got armor somewhere. I think there's a maximum amount this is actually display and the upgrades roll off when there's too many. But yeah, I think armor, there's just like one armor between both of them now. Because let's have a look. Battle cruiser, Terran vehicle plating, Terran ship plating. Maybe they're the same. I thought they may have merged them. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm thinking of an arcade game. But anyway, this is just awesome. And yeah, there we go. There we go. I think they were merged because I remember though seeing the Ravens. They had 3 armor like halfway through the game, and that was when he was still researching weapon air upgrades. So I'm almost sure that they have been merged. But anyway, good finish to this game. Just this big, huge, beefy army going in there, and they just wiped out everything. And I gotta say, a lot of it is owed to the excellent use of Ravens, point defense drone, Raven bombs, the Seeker missiles, the official name, and even the auto turrets going down on occasion to just. I mean, he put them down here. I think they may have just been fodder for the Locust, but I mean, if the Locust is attacking an auto turret instead of a building, then, you know, it's good shit. So, there we go. This has been Hairy Muppet casting this epic game from these Masters players. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this game.